Hey everybody, welcome to my first YouTube video. Today we're going to be creating a new advanced training routine for those of you who feel like you've kind of plateaued. So today's training is really going to focus on headshots and crosshair placements alone to improve to the next level. First map we're going to use is kovaaks aim trainer. We're going to come in, we're going to do a 50-meter tile frenzy, the horizontal reaction FS and BF, as well as going to go in and do your peak practice. The main point of this practice is going to be just getting your fingers warmed up and a little bit of aim practice to start off. One thing to focus on this horizontal tracking is going to be your trigger reset, knowing when, instead of just spamming your shots, is knowing when your crosshair will be placed and hitting each shot. So in your pre-practice, you're going to really want to focus on keeping that hand peak and timing your shot between the bot shot. It will train your subconscious automatically in a game. Alright, and then so for our second drill, we're going to come in and we're going to do a 1v1 aim trainer, either with a friend or a random, and we're going to come in through 1,000 health. We're going to do 3 different setups here. We're going to do a pump and AR, always blue, you don't want to practice with gold. You're going to come in and do the 1v1 or 1x1 here, and then next you're going to do a 2-box drill, which will be over here. Once you're in here with either your friend or the random, what I want you to focus on this is going to be headshots as well as your movement. Make sure you're crouching, not jumping. Pay attention to whenever they're whipping and what they're doing. Try to counter it. So if they whip this way to catch you, whip back this way. The whole time, try to be hitting headshots, and then switch your AR, do 2-3 tags like you would regularly to finish the enemy off, and then switch back. Okay, for the second drill in here, after you've done that 2 to 3 rounds, I want you to come in and you're going to grab an SMG and you're going to come in here and do the same exact thing, just with the SMG. Each round should take you 5 to 7 minutes roughly, for a total of about 15 minutes in this map. Alright, for the third and final training map for the headshot portion today, you're going to come into SKAVOOK's headshot only map. You're going to make sure you select the headshot only. You can do this with some friends, or you can go into a public match. So once you're in, one little simple caveat I want you to do here is turn off your sprint by default for about the first 5 to 6 minutes of this. Okay, so once you've turned off your sprint by default, you're going to come in here and you're going to make sure you keep your crosshairs at head level. Always finish your edits where one's head would be at. And you're going to learn this as you do this and be able to focus on it, and then subconsciously be able to do this in a game. Make sure you play around different edits and see which ones will lead to the best crosshair placement afterwards, as well as keeping your right hand peaks always. Okay, and then once you've done that for 5 to 6 minutes, you're going to come in and you're going to turn your sprint by default back on, and then you're going to do the same exact thing where you finish your edits right at crosshair level with the heads. Keep your right hand peak still, everything stays the same, just with your sprint by default on. So for the first portion with the headshots, each one should take you 15 to 20 minutes in each map. After you're done with that, we're going to come in and we're going to focus on the mechanics and crosshair placement for your building and editing. Okay, for the first map, we're going to come into Xanax 60's Ultimate Practice Map. This map is one of my favorites for working on small crosshair placement, builds, edits, etc. The links for all of the maps also will be in the description below, by the way. So the only thing we're going to use in here for today is going to be the crosshair placement and edit courses. Alright, so once you get into crosshair and placements, we're going to come over here to walls only, but before we start, we're going to again go in and we're going to turn off sprint by default today for this first part of the exercise. Make sure, again, you're going in, you're hitting your edits, you're making them as smooth as possible, and you're still going to be finishing them with the right crosshair placement for that flows into either the next one or it would flow into a headshot. Make sure right now we're focusing on the most minute as you can, and then you're going to go through this once first, going slow with sprint by default off, and then second time you're gonna come in and you're gonna try to hit these edits as quick as you can, but still with sprint by default off. Once you finish the walls only portion, you'll want to do that once, then you're going to come in here and do medium once. You'll have to go back to the main hub and reset them and come in to do them the second time for the faster portion. Now that you've gone through both twice with slow edits and fast edits on sprint by default, you're going to come in and you're going to try to do the same exact thing, but with your sprint by default on. So once you've done the ultimate practice map, the 2 times through slow and twice through full speed, we're going to come into Raiders box fight map version 2. Again, links will be in the description. Grab you a pump pad. You can grab a harpoon. I like to have that just for practice and mindset. And then we're going to run through some drills in this. All right, so to start off, we're going to come over here to the left side where the targets and edit drills are. And you're going to do the same thing you did in Ultimate Practice Map, and we're going to turn off our sprint by default again. And you're going to do this and focus on most fluid you can do your edits. So, see here, I'm not even using my left stick to hit these edits. Focus on the minimal crosshair movement that we can make in each edit, and you can play with this just to get the exact thing. We're going to run through just the first 2 drills here with this. Okay, so once you've done those 2 to 3 drills over there with your sprint by default off, you're going to come back over here and you're going to want to turn it back on. And we're going to practice height takes, protected side jumps, tunneling, etc. And you're going to focus on your crosshair placement still the same. It's going to end up looking something like this. You're going to do drill 1 and 2 on this for this portion. Okay, so once you've gone through and done the few drills there and there, you should be pretty warmed up by now. I want you to come over here and we're going to turn off sprint by default again. And we're going to do your regular free build that you would do, but instead we're going to have it with your sprint by default off again. And this is going to allow you to really focus on your crosshair placement for both editing as well as, I want you to experiment here. Test where you can throw builds, exactly where you need to have your crosshairs for them to get there, you know? Whereas if you're tunneling, you have throw your walls, find out exactly where the best spot for you to be is right here to come into your next edit, like so. And you kind of get the flow down. You're going to realize that some of the stuff you do is not as productive as it could be. So challenge yourself here to find what's working for you and find what's not, and kind of make some adjustments to that here. One thing I really want you to focus on in this drill, especially if you're working on your piece control or if you're struggling with it, focus on your tunneling, because if you watch a lot of piece control, a lot of it is going to be tunneling centered. If you can really hone in your tunneling, it's going to really improve your piece control twofold, because the faster you can fluidly move between builds and place the next one and start wearing where you can throw your builds in these tunnels, you're going to really improve not only your tunneling, but your piece control is going to come along very quickly. All right, guys, and then once you've done your sprint by default practice for probably, I would say, 10 to 15 minutes, we're going to come in and turn our sprint by default back on, and we're just going to do some more pre-build practice. Doing the same thing, just anything new you learned, try to practice doing it full speed, essentially here. Okay, and then once you've done that for about another 8 to 10 minutes of free building on regular speed, I want you to come in regular speed still, and I want you to come into your old tunnels, and this is going to be some more game sense tips. Like this training is mostly centered around comp players that I'm coaching. But I want you to come in to these tunnels, and we're going to open up some edits, and we're going to do some piece control outside the tunnel. This is going to simulate in-game practice, being able to catch somebody as they run by your tunnel, things like that. You know, really focus on keeping your right-hand peak. Don't ever give anybody the full shot on you, and as well, don't jump out like I just did. Back practice. Okay, guys, so now that we've done all that, you should be pretty warmed up. You might have found a few new tricks. We're gonna go in and we're gonna kind of use what we've learned in practice today in some infinite box fights here. The reason I like this map more than just regular box fights is this simulates a little more in-game. There's constant action. You're gonna come into an arena that looks like this with a max of I think 10 players. What I really want you to focus on still is your mechanics and your aim, but also I want you to come in here and you're not gonna just psycho W key everybody. We're gonna come in here and we're gonna play this as if it's in-game and you can't die. We're gonna try to eliminate the third parties. We're going to be the third partier. You're going to come in here. You're going to piece control people. You're going to make sure that after each kill you box up, work on your escapes really too. Being under pressure and getting out with multiple people attacking you. All right, and for today, the last thing that we're going to practice actually is some 1v1s. You can either do this with a friend or you can do this with other players. Number one thing is I want you to make sure you're using early game. I want you to focus on getting your angles, taking your time, not overusing mats. A lot of problems that people have in their tournaments is actually dying off spawn. So use this to your advantage. Use existing buildings, cover bushes, refarm. Make sure you're playing low ground typically in early game, unless you can instantly get height. Just really focus on your angles. So the number one thing for early game, especially if it's going to be like not a 50-50 fight, is going to be keeping your right angles, keeping your sneaks, using your crouching abilities, making sure you hit your shots, headshots, stuff like that. So that crosshair placement is really going to come into play here a lot. So make sure you just take your time here, focus. It's better if you do play random people to get used to different styles, but friends, if you have multiple friends, you can do this with them as well. Alright guys, and then so to wrap up today's training, this thing is going to take you probably 2 to 3 hours. I imagine most of the people I've had that ran this before I have sent this video out, they're pretty sore, so make sure you're not doing this on like training days or any days that you are going to have a tournament or anything like that. But yeah, we're going to finish off with a late game here, and we're going to go through a couple of things on the play style here. Alright guys, so we're going to load into a game. What I want you to do is I want you to focus on where you might be if this were an actual zone and you had rotated in a smart way. So on this one, dead side, we're going to be somewhere in this area in a real game. So we're going to land edge of zone for all of these. We're never going to land center zone because it's not good practice or extremely realistic. So make sure on these zones, when you're landing, box up and brick as if you were in a real game. You usually land on a rock to refarm. Sometimes if it's a POI, make sure that you're landing on like a building or something like that. You can practice some off-spawn fighting inside of there. As well as in mountain zones, make sure that you're playing it the same as you would in a game. So get medium height. Don't go for a full height. It's going to get contested. It's not good practice. So land medium height to where you would practice if you were, not in a contested position. Because that's going to give you more practice than would just to get yourself in a god spot. Make sure you land, you get boxed up, and mainly what we're going to focus on for training today is going to be game sentence. So for each person you see, you're going to want to assess the situation before you just push. You're going to want to see, where is the person? Up, down, what kind of terrain are you on? Where are the people around him and around you that have sightlines on you? Do they have any weak spots in their box where you could phase in? So like if this guy's here, you can run up and you can throw a ramp under that and you could phase up into his box. So pay attention to things like that for weak spots in their builds. As whereas where you could attack from to get the third party to focus on him. So we know that there's a person on his right hand side over here. So what we'd want to do is we'd come up and we'd focus on the backside. That way he would be pinched between us. But then we also have to be aware that people from this side could see us. So ideally you would want to come to this guy with a protected rush, or even go to zone at this point. But for instance, if we were going to fight him, you would come in and you would come up to this side and make sure that this guy can third party it. Okay guys, so all in all, the late game mode, you can do that for about as long as you want, as long as you can keep your focus on that for training purpose. Make sure that through each one, you're taking and focusing on the exact parts of your game that they're intended for to get the optimal improvement out of this. So one thing I want you to do also, this is comp related, is going to be once a week. So I suggest you do this twice a week, maybe 3 times a week. One thing I want you to do is also one of those days, make sure you switch your region to a higher ping region. This is going to simulate a little more laggy lobbies that you're going to get in actual cash cups and in real games and such like that. So make sure you're doing that. And like I said, make sure you're not doing this on tournament days until you can make sure you're not getting too burnt out or too sore. And give me feedback if you guys have any questions, concerns, comments. Just leave a comment below, or you can hit me up on Twitter as well. It's Coach Stegar. So everyone have a good day, and thanks for coming. A little side note, this is my first video, so appreciate y'all for watching, and look for them to improve as we go.